Hello, welcome to Hybrid Budgets. This is where I'm basically going to be going through my budget for April, setting up my budget for May, and just explaining how I go about doing budgeting basically. I've called it hybrid because although I don't cash stuff, I'm basically just showing you how I do my budget personally, and also how you could potentially then use that to do cash stuffing. I use pots in Monzo. I know obviously other banks have different pot systems. I quite like using that because they've got the virtual cards linked to them, so I'll explain a little bit on how I go about using those as well. And yeah, basically just going through how I budget for the month, how I split up my budget, things to overcome. Like I used to use credit cards a lot, so basically we'll talk a little bit about how I've overcome using them and how I'm managing using those slightly. The April one, I won't lie, is a bit up in the air, a bit higgledy-piggledy. This is why I've basically done it from, I've been budgeting January, February, March, April, but I finally just got to like a place now where I'm like, oh, okay, this is easier to explain, because even I was a bit confused as to why it wasn't working out very well. So hopefully you'll find it super useful. So I'll go through it. So I'm going to do a separate video on what is in my tracker. But just for now, what I'll do is I'll go through and basically do April's budget, and it's basically budgeting in Closedown. So this is what I had originally set out for my budget, and I'm just basically going to go through what happened, what actually happened, moving forward and setting up for May. So I'm briefly going to go through this page. So I have my incomes first. So this is everything in pink. So I've split that into salary, sinking funds, or gifts from people, carryover from banks, and any other payments at all. I then also have, these are all my fixed expenses. So I've split these up in bills and utilities, subscriptions, savings, miscellaneous, debt. These are basically anything that comes out as a direct debit I deem as my fixed, which I think is what everyone else would do. Variable then breaks down into, so I've got, it's anything that changes monthly, so you can't quite budget for, but you need to put a reasonably good estimate for it. So for instance, I've got 3 credit cards, Amex Gold, Virgin and Monzo. I've reduced down all my payments on my Amex. I'm now just using my Virgin, and I'm only going to be using that now going forward for work expenses. And then I have Monzo Flex, which is one where you can basically pay on the card and pay it off over 3 months. Again, I'm trying to minimise how much I use that, use it for purchases that I know I can afford, whereas what was happening is I was paying for something, then being like, oh, but I can pay it off in 3 months. And then the actual monthly payments, you can see they're getting up to quite a lot. Similar with PayPal as well. So these are, although that's a credit one, I just didn't have another line. You shouldn't really have that much, but like I said, I'm sort of coming out of quite a bad place with my finance. Similar with Halifax, but I'll bracket that as gifts because the only thing I've got coming out of my Halifax now is a gin club subscription, which I bought for my mum. And then, yeah, you budget all the other things such as food, health, hair, beauty, hobbies, entertainment. Then all my sinking funds. So this is the stuff, for instance, you'd maybe put into a cash stuffing. So emergency fund, debt, extra overpayment, holiday, Christmas gifts, home improvements. Annual expenses. In January, I have so many annual expenses, whereas all the other way through the month, I don't really have many. The only one I'm going to move is this water bill because it's not actually direct debit, so it's not fixed. It's basically comes out and gets paid I pay into it monthly, but it's not a direct debit. So I'm going to shift that one because technically it's not fixed, it's an annual expense. So I need to shift that. And then any credit card expenses. So for instance, I used to put on, and I've changed it for May, but I'll go through it for April. I used to put petrol, eating out, gifting, home, like essentially everything used to go on my credit card. And obviously I didn't manage it very well. So I need to go back to basics a little bit and put pots aside for certain expenses, understand my spending, and then maybe I can gradually sort of trust myself, I guess, again, to use a credit card. So briefly, again, all the things I put in. So I put in which bank it goes from or out of, so I know which bank it comes from. I put the date I'm expecting it to come out as well, or come in. So my salary, for instance, comes in on the 28th. these things get paid on 2nd, 15th, etc. So I've got Nationwide account, Halifax, Virgin, Monzo, etc. And then these are ones which I know I need to shift. So for instance, any of these ones which says NW to NW, it's like an internal transfer, or FDs like First Direct to Nationwide or Nationwide to Monzo. It just reminds me that I need to do that. So like I say, these are all the fixed ones, and then these are all the ones that go out or I have to shift out. So hopefully that makes sense. I think it'll make more sense when I write out my budget. But just to go through what I've done last month, I budgeted 4,000 for my salary. Carryover from Nationwide, I had about £1,000, or knew it was going to be about £1,000. So yeah, I budgeted £5,000 for the month. It's quite a lot, but in my salary it also has expense payment, so that's an allowance for working away basically. So that's why it's so much more. That will drop significantly when I start another job which is closer to home. Yeah, and carry over from Nationwide I budgeted about £1,000. So I was working off the assumption I was going to have £5,000. What actually happened was I took out some stuff from a sinking fund, which was from a separate account, which was used to be a gift. Sorry, that's just my computer going off. So I added that in. I also got a transfer from my partner for some other expenses because something came out that I was paying for, which he is now going to pay for. So it was just an internal transfer. So I actually ended up budgeting with an extra £843. So you can see where that's gone. So yeah, mortgage was as thought. These ones were all essentially as I thought. This one went up slightly. So this is the internet. We've done internet and TV package. That's why that one's gone up so much. I think next month I'm gonna add it in. I think it will be £0 because I believe my partner set it up for him to pay now, because he's recently moved in, so it's the way we're sort of splitting our bills. Mobile was more because I was on holiday and had the roaming charges, so that was sort of expected, but like I said, I budgeted my monthly amount and it was slightly more. House insurance did go up ever so slightly, so I do need to look into that one potentially. Council tax was as thought. Nationwide account fee as thought. Spotify, so again, my partner's taken that one on, so I had budgeted it originally and now he's taken it over, so that's £0. Microsoft as thought. Audible, yep. Netflix, again, my partner's taken that over now, so I can scratch that one off. Remarkable, that's basically a digital notepad, but it's used for the cloud system it links to. It's £3 a month. Now TV, I've cancelled that, so we did used to have that, whereas now we've got the TV package. I've just cancelled that one off, so that saved a bit of money there. Start Save ISA, I didn't add anything else to, and I'm going to take that one out because it's not a direct debit now. I've basically put it to £0 and I'm putting it as an emergency fund extra over. So the way my emergency fund works for First Direct is I can only put in £50 a month in it, so I always will have that £50 a month, and then if there's anything extra over I'm putting it into a Start to Save ISA, which I've got in Nationwide. So a bit confusing of where I've got the pockets, but again I'll go through that for my May budget. Vanguard, I used to transfer £200 a month. I've dropped that to £50 purely because I was looking at some of the payments that are coming out, and again I'll probably make a separate video on all my credit payments, and you can get, and I'll go through sort of why I've suddenly realised, like, oh, big gulp, that I need to overpay quite a few of those. Gosh is Great Ormond Street Hospital, that's a charity, that comes out every month, that's £9.50. I've put this just miscellaneous, it's not fixed, but a National Lottery put £5 in. I just didn't have any room here for it, so usually that would be like a variable, and usually we don't do it, but it's just a one-off, to be honest. And then these are all my minimum payments on my credit cards, so these are all the things that will come out monthly. They vary slightly, so arguably you could put them under variable, but I just like to put them under debt. They're fixed in my eyes, as in they do need to come out every month. I mean, the value might change ever so slightly. For instance, I budgeted 50, it was 46. I budgeted 30, it was 28. I budgeted 120, it was 103. I budgeted 65, it was 62. So these are where those little bits of savings gone. Sorry, I'm writing so khaki there, and hopefully you can see it. I don't know if I need to zoom in at all. Potentially. Sorry, I'm not great on anything too technical, so hopefully you can see the overview. Yeah, so Amex Gold, so these are the variable credit cards, so these are the ones you have to pay off monthly. So sorry, I should have elaborated, these are 0% balance transfer cards. So it's where I've had a big amount, transferred them over to a 0% balance transfer card, and I'm paying those down gradually. Like I say, I'll do a separate video on these because some of them are coming up to their end of the 0% promotion. So I do need to look at these and how I can overpay them. Yeah, so Amex Gold is the one I was using sort of for monthly payments. And then I also have Virgin, and that didn't help at all. I suggest if you are having a credit card, use only one. I've got 3 for whatever reason, technically 4, technically 5. I've got them for various different functions. For instance, the Halifax one I used to use for going away. PayPal was for purchases online where I didn't want to necessarily use my credit card, and also you could split purchases. Similar to Monzo, you could split purchases. Don't really know why I've got 5. I think that's why I'm probably in hella blue about all my credit card expenses, but we move on. MX Gold, didn't think I had anything on it, but I think I had put a bit of fuel expense on there. I think it was like a mini fill up, and I didn't have my wallet, but I did find the Amex card in my car, so I put that one on it. Virgin credit card, I thought it was going to be about 1,150. It was actually 1,035, so a bit of money saved on that one. Monzo Flex, so I transferred £400 for that one. It actually came to about £500, but I did have some extra in my Monzo account, so that was fine. PayPal 26 was about 25.33, so that wasn't too bad. Halifax Gifts, like I say, Craft Gin Club is a subscription. It comes out of that one. I do need to move it because I just want it out the way a little bit. So I paid that from my Nationwide. It was £50. It's actually 45. Food, I budgeted 250. Health, hair and beauty, I budgeted 110. And hobbies and entertainment, I budgeted 50. So what I should have done here is I've put NW to Monzo. So I've got separate pots for, in fact, let me see if I can get those up just to show everyone. I'm sure people know how pots work. So I have various pots for my items. So eating out, water bill, hair, beauty, birthday, holiday, Christmas, home improvement, hobbies, entertainment. And then what I'm going to try and do is I've got cards linked to them. So these cards will essentially, I can purchase straight from the pot. So very similar to cash stuffing, how you take from that cash stuffing envelope, I essentially take only from that pot. And if it is over that pot amount, so for instance, if I had a meal and it was over what that pot limit was, I think it was about 225. 1, that's a really expensive meal, but 2, it will just won't take the payment. So at least you're told when that pot runs out, and you have to like manually add money to that pot to make that payment go through. So there's no like ifs buts about it. If you don't have the money, you just can't pay for it. So which is really good. But it's obviously on credit cards, you roughly know where you're up to with it, but you also don't. But yeah, in all my wisdom, I hadn't transferred those things over. I'd started to pay for stuff on my credit card, so that's why I've just put CC there. So I'll carry on and I'll explain what happened there then. Emergency fund, extra over. So I actually transferred over £200 into my emergency fund, so that went into the Start to Save ISA. So that's why it's Nationwide to Nationwide. It was an internal transfer. Debt over extra payment. I hadn't planned to add anything to it, but this additional £450 I started to put into my debt overpayment. So it was actually my MBNA, because that's my highest priority. Again, on that separate credit video, I'll explain which ones I pay off first. Holiday 150. I actually ended up spending 350 on that. So I transferred 150 to the pot, but £200 had to be a transfer to someone else, because like I say, I went on holiday last week and it was a transfer to that person. So that was ever so slightly more. Christmas, £50, transferred 50. Gifts, £100, transferred 100. Home improvements, £100, transferred 100. So they all tally up fine. So yeah, originally I had left over 874, was actually because of all the other savings I had here and various stuff, I was actually up to 1,299. And then annual expenses, like I say, I will put my water bill in there, but I've got nothing else. And then credit card expenses. So my logic here is to budget from this month what I've spent this month, even though the credit card payment will come out next month. Now that really confused me. It did not confuse me. It's obvious when you know how credit cards work. However, it just really messed up my budgeting, and I think that's the issue with sometimes with well, I definitely struggled with it, that I was like, oh, hang on, why am I managing this month? Oh, wait, I'm managing this month because I'm actually putting the onus on next month. And it's like, why am I managing next month? It's like, because actually you're not paying for the stuff you're buying in that month. You're only paying off your credit card from last month because of the way the monthly cycle rolls. So everything you put on the credit card this month actually gets paid off next month. So what I was trying to do is, because I had a lot of income, a lot of leftover, for various reasons, I was like, right, I'm going to get up to date on all my credit card payments, and I'm going to budget my credit card payments for next month. So if I can't afford it in this month, something's not right, you know? So what I had done is, rather than putting these into a pot, I was like, right, if I'm already spending on my credit card anyway, I'm going to use this money, not put it into a pot. I'm going to save that money to basically go for next month's credit card payment, because all these things, food, health, hair and beauty, hobbies, entertainment, I pay on my credit card. Similar with this, petrol, eating out, gifting, home life and work expenses, I'd all put on the credit card. So I had equated all my expenses on the credit card, worked it all out, worked out where things were going, worked out roughly how much it was coming out to be for next month. And essentially that tallied up to it. So if I did 750 plus 250, that's 1,060. So next month, I know for my Virgin credit card, my budget amount for that is 1,160. Roughly, that's what it should be. So that made a lot more sense to me to do it that way. I hope that makes sense, and I think that's the way I'm going to do it going forward, other than the fact that I'm only going to budget for petrol and parking next month, because I've got a change in job. I won't have work expenses other than petrol and parking. Home life, gifting, eating out, I've got their own sinking funds for. Food we're going to put into our joint account, so again it won't go on the credit card, it will go into our joint card because we've now decided to get one together. So I think that'll be a lot more managed. Moving on, I'm just going to go through the various, how the month sort of went. So I've got a month calendar view. So I do sometimes put in my payments. So Remarkable came out on the 9th, PayPal, etc., Audible. But more importantly, I'm going to put in actual like life events, just so I know when the unexpected things will happen and plan it out. So for instance, these are all my payments, like direct debits coming out, but then there's things like we went to my partner's mum's, or we've got the PT session, or here's when payday is. We had a takeaway this month, you know, all those variable ones. We were like, okay, what's going to happen? How can we budget it a little bit more? Like a dentist on Monday, so that obviously costs money to go there. So went out for a Turkish, or I knew I was going out for a Turkish that night, had a meal with my friend Anna that night. So it's those things where I'm like, okay, this is where I need to sort of start to plan it. And then finally, I'm just doing an account. So I have this where I fill it out at the start of the month, and then the end month, and basically any notes within that. So this sort of explains the pots ever so slightly more better. Again, I hope you can see it. So I don't put in my current accounts because I don't like to put the amount on or list it in here. They sort of are what they are. I know where they're up to, but what I do try and put in is my pots, where they're up to, any savings and any debt, just to give a bit of an update on it. So I've got a Flex regular online saver, don't really use it at all. I think it got a penny in interest. That one just ticks away 2.3%. Because the percentage of that wasn't great, I ended up getting the Start to Save ISA, which is one that I'm using for my extra overpayments. So this was £219.99. I added that extra £200, so that's up to £419.99, and that one's got quite a good percentage of 5.5%. My better one, which I use for my emergency fund, is the First Direct Saver. So that I did have £300 in. My direct debit sets at £50 a month, so that will just go up in increments of 50 every month, but that's at 7%, so that's a lot better percentage. I've got the Instant Access Saver with Nationwide. This is just like round-up payments and other stuff. So again, don't really put money into that at all. Sort of, it's open. I don't really use it, but it's at 2.4%. These are all my Monzo pots. So they are 0%. I don't get anything on them, but it's where I can keep money. As I said, for this month, I didn't really use them at all. I still had stuff on my credit card. So I'm going to utilise these next month with the virtual card. Monzo Food, I did have a separate account for this. Anything that I get in this, I'll probably end up transferring to our joint account. So when I say I'm putting something into food, it'll just go into our joint account card, which we can use for, you know, our food shop, obviously. Home improvements, I had £5, hadn't put anything else into it, so that's staying the same. Monzo Flex was at minus 618. That went up ever so slightly. I think my dental went onto that one, so that's why that one went up ever so slight. That's at 0% if you pay it off over 3 months. If you don't, it's 9%, so that's what I've sort of put that 9% there. But again, all at 0%, but not great that I'm still utilising that. PayPal credits at 0 now. It was at 0 before. I think that £25 was actually to pay off last month. So it's still at 0, that's fine. Virgin Pink, so this is a 0% balance transfer card, so BT for balance transfer, was at 6,270, and now that's gone down with the minimum payments, that's 0%. MBNA, so I've got two with MBNA. I've got a balance transfer and I've got a money transfer. The balance transfer is at 0% for the minute. The money transfer is at 5.9%. So although it's 5.9%, it's not 5.9% of all that amount. Like I say, I'll go into more detail with that in the debt, but annoyingly they bill it as one, so I've just listed it as one. Tesco, similar, balance transfer card, balance transfer currently at 0%, so they're ticking along. So that's April closed down. So now I'm going to set up May. So I did it earlier just so it didn't have to be on the video. So I need to fill out obviously my account start, account end and the diary. But this is the budget breakdown for May. So like I say, I've put internet in, I'm going to put it in just so I'm budgeting for it, but I think that will be 0. I've taken out all those other subscriptions that I mentioned from the previous month that my partner's paying for. I've shifted my water bill because that's got its own separate pot now. So when that does get billed, I've got the money saved for it. These are all, like I say, I've taken out, what did I have there before? The National Lottery, don't use that. Vanguard, emergency fund, they're fine. Credit's fine. These 3 I've added in still. I've not added in the PayPal because its balance is 0. Similar with Amex, I could probably take that one out because the balance is 0, but it's always useful just to have a note on it. And then, yeah, my variable pots are now food, eating out, home improvement, hair, beauty, health, hobbies and entertainment. So these are the ones I deem that I will essentially be doing a monthly payment for in some which way. It might be 20 quid, it might be more, but I just need to budget what I'm putting into the pot. So what my budget amount is what's going into the pot. What my actual amount will be, I'll probably end up splitting it to say what I've put in the pot and what I've actually spent, just so I can keep a track of it. Similar here, so emergency fund, holiday, Christmas, gifts, debt extra for payments. So these are essentially sinking funds. I'm basically trying to pay towards them. So holiday, Christmas gifts have their own pot. They'll go up if anything. Debt extra over will go directly into the account. Emergency fund will go directly into the account. Water bill has its own pot. And like I said, the only thing I should be putting on my credit card now is fuel and parking. The reason I'm still keeping these on my credit card is, one, to keep on top using a credit card. It's good for your credit score if you're using your credit card and paying off monthly. And these, because they're expenses, they get paid the month after anyway. So at the point where really it's costing me, hopefully I'll get it back in terms of salary. And if I don't, for whatever reason, in terms of expenses, it shouldn't therefore be too much to manage if I've only got those 2, if that makes sense. So for instance, if my expenses are done 2 monthly, if I forget to submit it that month, at least it's only like a month behind rather than what could be potentially 2 months behind if I paid for it myself that month, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Apologies, I have sort of waffled. Please ask any questions. Please guide me if there's anything you would have done differently. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll fill out the actual budget. I'll go through the budget then. There's no point in you watching me fill it out. Go through the budget, and I'll also set up these account pots amount at the start and sort of roughly run through what I'm doing for that month. So this is it all set up. So this is the accounts at their starting balance. Account amounts start is meant to be a little typo there. Again, I've listed all the interest, and then these are some of the notes that I've done from the month. So I'll make those clear as I go through the budget. What I've also done is in the calendar, just put through any like events that are happening or that I'm aware of to date. So for instance, I've got, I'm having a meet up with my friend, so there'll probably be some eating out costs there. Going around to my friends for a barbecue, so again, there might be a bit on food budget there that we just need to be aware of, or it's more, we don't need to plan for food then. We've also got bank holiday Monday coming up then, so it'd be maybe an expense there. My brother's coming down then, it's also his birthday, so there'll be a gift involved there. Family barbecue on a Sunday, so again, it's just more to know, there might be less food there. We're going to London towards the end of the May, so I imagine there'll be like eating out expenses there and other items which we need to budget for. And then this last week we are going caravanning, although I think we're actually only going the end of the week, and that's when payday is. So it's just a good overview of the week, obviously working in between there, so there's going to be things like petrol, parking expenses for work, so they'll be added in throughout. So what I'm going to do is probably, I usually use the blue pen, but I've got another one in black, so what I might do is all my fixed expenses in black, and anything that I know is like coming up maybe in the blue, just to mix it up a bit. And again, there's spaces for notes. So I've set this one up in May. Mine's just blank, so I have to put the numbers in, but I think that works quite well actually, because obviously you can shift it about bits and bobs. But yeah, now I'm going to go through the monthly budget. Right, so this is my May budget, and I'll go through this with you now. So similar as before, so I've budgeted 4,000, so my salary is less than that, but then I get a top-up allowance. I've just combined it all into one for my salary. I've got carryover, so that was from the previous month. So in the April budget breakdown, we obviously had £1,299 left over. Mortgage, life insurance, nationwide, e-mobile, these are all sort of similar. Council tax has gone up ever so slightly, so I'm guesstimating that one. My partner's moved in, so I won't have the sole occupancy allowance added, so I'm guessing that. So it's not great, but we spoke to council, so they're going to reissue our council tax bill, so hopefully we'll get to the bottom of what it should be monthly. An account fee, which I forgot about last month, that caught me out, so I've added that one in, and again, I just need to transfer to make sure I've got £5 in my Monzo account to pay that. Internet, like I say, I'm listing it. I don't think there's any payment for it, but I'll still list it for the minute, just in case there is something that comes out, at least then I know where it's gone. Microsoft, Audible, Remarkable, subscription payments, Vanguard and my emergency fund, so that's technical investments, this is emergency fund, £50, so I've just made note that I need to transfer £50 into my First Direct. I've set up a standing order for that one though, so that's why it's fixed now. Charity payment of £10 and minimum payment, so again I know they're less than this, but I'm just going to allow that much for the sake of budgeting. That leaves me a remaining, so that came to £1,443, that leaves me a remaining £3,856. So going into the next page, hopefully you can see. So Amex, there shouldn't be an amount on it. We budgeted last month, so that value that came out was 1,160 for the Virgin credit card, so that was coming from like the food, eating out, all the stuff that I actually ended up putting onto my credit card. So hopefully it shouldn't be any more than that, because I don't think I've gone over that. Monzo Flex budgeted 450. This is coming towards the end of its payments, to be fair, so hopefully I won't have this one much longer. And then food, eating out, home improvement, hair and beauty, hobbies and entertainment, all of these amounts, and you can see it's nationwide to Monzo. So I've literally done that. I've just transferred that straight away, so they're in their respective pots with the virtual card attached to them. So again, if you were doing your cash stuffing and you have your cash stuffing folder you would go out with your daily one, these would be the amounts I would be putting them in for the month. but also like I just wouldn't want to carry around that much cash, so I imagine what people do is they do like a weekly amount for it and have it in the purse or whatnot. So these are the ones I know I'm going to spend in the month. Sinking funds, so again I'm transferred it over. So emergency fund, I haven't done that one yet actually. Emergency fund should be £200. Holiday, I've transferred over 275, 250, 100, 150. I've done more in holiday purely because I know we're going to Wales end of this week and we're also going to London. So we might end up spending some money for that. So I've put an allowance in a bit more for that, with the logic of £200 is like for saving, and then 75 is for probably what it's going to maybe cost us. But I say that, Wales should be free because we're staying at James's mum's caravan, and we should be staying at some of our friends for London. So really we'll probably come out of the eating out budget, so I might review that, but just for now it's in that pot. So that came to £975 with a leftover 421. £21 needs to go to the water bill, which I put in monthly, so that's already gone into the water bill pot, so I think that comes out in July for the 6-month payment, so that should work out. And then £400 left, so what I've done is I've done £200 for parking, £200 for fuel, I've basically equated it to about £50 per week. I thought that wasn't too ridiculous. So that's going to be left over for this month. That will therefore go into my carryover for next month. That will automatically, that £400 will essentially be where that Virgin Atlantic payment goes. So yeah, so that's my budget for May. What I'll do now is go through the start and end of accounts, if I can find the page. So hopefully you can see that, and does it need zooming in? I'll leave it as it is. Amount start, so these are all the amounts I finished with the end of last month, so nothing too ridiculous here. So this was the end of last month, or the ones I had put sinking fund money in. So if you remember in my last budget, I transferred over £100, £150, £50. Food, obviously money came out, so I transferred £200, also came through from a partner, and £250 from my May budget will go into this. So I haven't put in the amount end because obviously we're going to pay from it. So it's naught at the minute. Then I had some transfer from May budget, so that was just me to say what has come in when I put the amount end in, just because what will happen is it will go up a lot, but then it will probably get used if I use any of the amounts. I just want to put little notes in. This one, these ones are all minimum payments. This one, what have I put in? Oh, okay, so these are the dates that the MB&A come out, or their promotional period end. So what I've just worked out here is for the balance transfer, that expires on the 20th of the 8th, so that's August, which only leaves 4 months. So to pay off that full balance, which I think is about 1,800 maybe, 1,000, I'll go into it in a minute, it's £814 a month. So although I've budgeted out everything this month, I'll see how that goes, because I might be able to make some savings elsewhere to pay that this month. Unlikely that I'm going to be paying it the next month, but it's more just to keep an eye out on that. One's basically coming up to fruition, so that 5.9% is going to jump up to like 25%, and obviously I don't want to be paying that on, you know, 3,258. So I'm going to look into that, and I'm probably going to do a separate video on it, to be honest, as well. But that's the budget roundup for this month. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. It was a bit confusing because, like I say, half of it was me confusing things by having extra credit cards and then not using the credit card and then budgeting for it. Hopefully this makes sense, and going forward it'll be a lot easier to manage, and hopefully for people who do have credit cards, that helps like the logic a little bit. Like I said though, I'm going to try and avoid it, only use it for fuel and expenses going forward, and then have the pots that will pay out for the other stuff. But join me for my next video, which I'll be doing on credit cards and debt. So basically I'll go into a bit of a deep dive on all the debts I have to date, all the percentages, when they're due, how I'm going to prioritise it, or how I have been prioritising it, because obviously I worked this out I think back in January, but it'd be useful to go through a review again. And then what I'll also do is I'll do a separate video on my actual budget planner and go through that as well, because I've also got some saving challenges in the back. So it'd be quite useful to review those ones and see which I've got. So I've got various saving goals So I've got some for my mortgage, some for investments, sinking funds, emergency funds, etc. So I'll go through those as well. Bro, well, thanks for joining. Please leave any comments. Please be kind. I'm not proud of where I've got to with my finances. I'm very aware I'm on a very good budget, and considering how good a salary I've got myself into a right old pickle. There's various reasons for that, like such as an extension on the house and various other bits and bobs, and like doing up the bathroom and doing up loads of things. Everything on the house is done now, you know, within reason. Obviously there's maintenance, so yeah, hopefully I can get it back managed again. It was one of those moments where once you start, you're like, well, I might as well finish, and then that got me into a right old pickle with debit and credit cards, and yeah, just not great. So I'm really going back to basics with this. Really going to try and break down my budget, know where my spending's going. I'm not mindful spending previously, whereas I need to be. So yeah, hopefully you can follow along. It'd be great to hear your guys' views, insights on it. But yeah, please be kind, please be respectful. Everyone's budget is different. Everyone's in different situations. And yeah, if you want to reach out at all, like, I'm happy to help people as well. Although I'm in a pickle, I'm sort of muddling through. But yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from you all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you again soon. Bye.